So welcome back to another crochet tutorial with Cozy Rosie UK. Today I am sharing with you probably one of my favourite squares in the Hodgepodge blanket crochet along. It's introduced me to a stitch that I think I'm just going to love forever. This is the forked cluster stitch, and we've used it throughout this granny square to create probably one of the most squishy squares you'll find. It is a firm favourite of mine, which is why I can wax lyrical about how much I like it. And I think you're going to love it too, because it's a really nice, easy one row repeat. It doesn't use too much yarn, yet is nice and squishy all at the same time. If you haven't already, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and of course the notification bell so that you never miss out on another one of my crochet tutorials again. If you're playing catch up on any of the granny squares that are featured in the Hodgepodge blanket crochet along, you can find the link in the description box to go and check out all the squares that have been featured, and there's also a playlist in my channel specifically for all the squares that have been featured. You'll find in the description box, along with that link to see the other squares, you'll also find the link to see the written pattern for this forked cluster granny square. But let's get started and find out what materials we need to crochet our own forked cluster granny square. So the materials that we're going to need for our forked cluster square are 3 different shades, that is optional of course, of any Aran weight or worsted weight yarn, so a size 4 yarn. So I'm going to be using shades A, B and C. So I've got 202, 250, I think 245, I can never remember this one. Yeah, 245 that I'm going to be using with this square. Now the corresponding hook size for this Aran weight yarn is a 5mm, so I've got my trusty crochet hook here. I've got a pair of scissors and I've got a darning needle, and there are going to be a few ends to weave on this one, but it really is worth it. So gather all of your materials, and however many colours you want to use, you can use 2, 3, 4, however many, or just one. This is such a textured squishy stitch that it will look great in just one colour. So grab the materials and we're going to get started. So the forked cluster square is worked in rows, so we're going to start by making a chain, and the starting chain for this 8" by 8" square is going to be a chain of 32. I'm starting with colour A, so I'm going to make my chain of 32. If you make yours, and I'll meet you back in a moment for the rest of row 1. So once you have your chain of 32, so we start by working our first forked cluster in the 5th and 6th chain from hook. So what that means is we're going to yarn over the hook and insert our hook into that 5th chain from hook, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over again, insert the hook back into that 5th chain from hook, yarn over, bring a loop up. We then yarn over and pull through those first 4 loops on the hook. As I always say, this goes so much quicker when I'm not on camera. There we go. So we leave those 2 loops on hook, and then we go and skip the next stitch, and we're going to work into that 7th chain from hook. So we leave this one in between empty. So we yarn over the hook, insert the hook into that 7th chain from hook, yarn over. Oh, did I yarn over? Yeah, yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over, insert the hook, bring a 4th loop up, yarn over and pull through those first 4 loops, then yarn over to pull through the remaining loops. These first 4 chains that we skipped count as a skipped double crochet and a chain 1. Once you've completed that first fork, I have to watch how you say these things, we're going to start our repeat all the way across here. So we chain 2, and we then work into the next chain starting that next forked cluster. So we yarn over the hook, insert, bring a loop up. So we have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over again, insert, bring up another loop. We've got 5 loops on our hook, but we're only going to pull through the first 4 and leave those 2 on our hook. And then we yarn over and we're skipping that next chain and working into the next one. So we yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over, reinsert, bring our 4th loop up, yarn over, pull through those 4 loops, then yarn over and pull through the remaining 3 loops on our hook, and then we chain 2 and we repeat that again. So we're working into that next chain, we yarn over, insert the hook, bring our loop up, yarn over again, reinsert into the same chain to bring a 5th loop up. We're only going to pull through the first 4. We then yarn over, skip 1 chain and work the second half of this forked cluster by yarning over, bringing up a loop, yarn over, insert again, bring up our 4th loop, pull through those first 4 loops, and yarn over to pull through the remaining 3 loops on our hook, and chain 2. Let's do one more together. So working into that next chain, so we insert the hook, bring a loop up, so we've got 3, yarn over again, reinsert into the same chain, bring a 5th loop up, we yarn over, pull through those first 4 loops, and then we skip the next chain, yarn over and work the second part of our forked cluster. So we bring 1 loop up, bring our 4th loop up, pull through those first 4 loops, then yarn over to pull through the remaining 3. And there is the start of our forked cluster. So continue to repeat that chain 2, followed by working your forked clusters over the next 3. So we chain 2, working into that next chain, working the first part of the forked cluster, yarning over and pulling through 4, skip 1 chain, work the second part of that cluster stitch, yarn over, pull through the first 4, and then yarn over to pull through the last 3. Continue to repeat that all the way down until you have 1 chain remaining, because here we're only going to skip 1 and chain 1. So I'll meet you for the last 2 chains. So once we have just 1 chain remaining and we've worked our last forked cluster, we simply chain 1 and then work 1 double crochet into the last. So at the end of row 1, you're going to have 2 double crochets, 1 at each end. You've got these 9 forked cluster stitches, 8 chain 2 spaces, and you've got the 2 chain 1s either side as well. Going into row 2, we're going to start with a chain of 4, 3 and 4. Remembering that that chain 4 counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. And then this time we're going to work our forked clusters into the chain spaces. So we're going to start by yarning over, inserting our hook into that first chain 1 space, yarn over the hook again and bring up another loop, yarn over, pull through those first 4, then we yarn over the hook and work into the next chain 2 space, bring 1 loop up, yarn over again, reinsert to bring up another loop, yarn over, pull through the first 4, yarn over, pull through all 3. We then chain 2 and we start working the next forked cluster into the same chain 2 space we've just worked into. So we yarn over, insert the hook into that same chain 2 space we've just finished working in, yarn over, reinsert to bring our next loop up, yarn over, pull through the first 4 loops, or drop everything, bear with. So yarn over, pull through the first 4 loops, yarn over, and this time we work into that next chain 2 space, working those 2 yarn overs, yarn over, pull through all 4, yarn over, pull through all 3. So we chain 2 and repeat that, working into that same chain 2 space again, yarn over, pull through 4, yarn over, insert into the next chain 2 space, pull through those first 4 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. So continue to repeat that all the way across. And we're going to finish once we worked our last forked cluster into these 2 chain spaces, and I'll meet you here. So once we've worked that last forked cluster, working in the second part into that chain 1 space, we simply make a chain of 1, and then we're going to double crochet into that 3rd chain that we made at the beginning of our first row. So we just work 1 double crochet into the top of that 3rd chain. So at the end of row 2, you've now got 2 beautiful rows of forked clusters. So for rows 3 and 4, I'm going to change colour to colour B, and I'm going to change colour just by undoing this last stitch and working the last bit, changing colours just before I yarn over. So I've got my tail at the back of my hook, and just bring that colour through, pulling on the original colour to tighten the loop, and then I'm ready to work my turning chain of 4. Let's start row 3 together. So we've got our chain of 4, and then we start working our first forked cluster into that chain 1 space. So we yarn over the hook, insert, bring our loop up, yarn over, insert into the same chain 1 space, yarn over, pull through the first 4 loops, yarn over, insert into the next chain 2 space, bring those 4 loops up, pull through and pull through all 3 loops, chain 2. So you're just going to repeat this stitch all the way across as we've done for the last row. But this time we are going to really see how stunning these colour changes make the texture stand out. So continue to work across for the next 2 rows in your colour B, and I'll meet you for rows 5 to 7 that we're going to work in colour C. So I've worked my final chain 1 in colour B, and I'm just going to work into my chain space, my 3rd chain. I'm going to stop here before I add in my 3rd colour. So for my colour B, I'm using shade number 245, and just like before, I'm just going to place it over my hook with the tail at the end to complete that last stitch in my new colour. So going into rows 5 to 7, I'm going to work with my colour C, done my chain of 4, and then I'm ready to continue to work these forked cluster stitches in my next colour. So once I've worked my 3 rows in colour C, I'm going to change back to colour B and work a further 2 rows. And then for my final 2 rows, which are rows 10 and 11, I'm going to work in colour A. I'm then going to work my edging in colour A. So get all of your 11 rows worked up, and I will meet you in a little while to work our edging. So I'm just working my final chain 1 and my last double crochet into the top of that chain 3. Now I'm not fastening off to work our edging. I'm sure you're already in love with this square. I literally can't love this stitch enough. I do prefer it upside down because it's like a fluffy V-stitch, and I love the V-stitch as well, which I've not used in this blanket, I've just realised. Sorry about that. Got the iris stitch, which is fairly similar as well. Anywho, let's get our edging done on this last square. So we're going to start our edging by making a chain of 1, and we're going to work down these sides, and I am going to weave in these edges. I'm going to show you how I do them at the same time. So we're going to start by working into that chain space, just working around that post and then into the edge of the row. Now because these are double crochets, we're working 1 around the post and 1 into the top of the stitch all the way down, and then when we reach these colour changes, just need to make sure we're working over both bits of the colour changes as we work across these stitches. I'm not going to go too mad working over them. I want to make sure that I can weave a little bit of it in as well. If you pull them nice and tight, no one should see them. So that's them a little bit worked over. I've got another 2 ends here, so I'm going to start working over those. And I just keep working all the way down. I'm going to meet you down for that first corner at the end of working over these ends of the rows. So I've reached my corner here in where that slip knot is, and I'm just working my corner of a single crochet, a chain 1, and a single crochet. Then I'm rotating my work to work back along my starting chain, and what I'm going to do here is just work into the bottom of the stitches and into these chain 1 spaces as well. So just into the bottom of the stitches, into the chain that was skipped, and into the bottom. So repeat that all the way across, and I'll meet you ready to work our next corner. We're then going to work our corner into the top of the base of the chain 3 that we first ever skipped on that first row. So we're just going to work a single crochet a chain 1, back into the same space if I can find it. Oh my God. Going to work that last single crochet, and then we are ready to work back up the side of our square again. So it's going to work into those, around those chain 3s and into the ends of the rows, all the way up, making sure I don't miss any of these ends of the rows. I'm going to work over these ends for a few as well, and I can weave them in again properly at the end. So work all the way up these rows, and I'll meet you at the top to work our next corner. I keep forgetting that word, I don't know what it is. So I've worked into this space here, and I'm just going to work my final corner into the chain 3 space, not chain 3 space, the top of the chain 3. So work a single crochet, a chain 1 and a single crochet into the top of that chain 3. And we're nearly there. We're just going to work back along the top in the same way we did on the edging. So it's slightly different here because we've got a chain space, a stitch and a chain space we're going to work into. So I've already worked into this chain space here. So I'm going to work in top of the stitch. There's no space here, ignore that, resist. Work into the chain 2 space with 2 stitches, and then work 1 stitch into the top of that forked cluster. So 2 single crochets into the top of the chain space, and then 1 single crochet into the top of the forked cluster all the way across, and that will match what we did at the bottom. Keep working across and I'll meet you for our last corner. So at the end, remember we only have 1 chain space there, and then I'm going to work my corner into that final stitch slash chain 1 that's left. So 1 single crochet, chain 1, rotate it a little bit to work that last stitch of our single crochet, and then we're ready to join to that first single crochet that we joined with us, we're going to join with a slip stitch, do a little knot of a chain 1, ready to fasten off. And ignoring all those ends for one little moment, because we have completed our beautiful forked cluster square. I'm going to have to turn mine upside down. I just think it looks so much nicer. I don't know why, I'm weird. But I really hope that you've enjoyed making your very own forked cluster square. It's an incredibly quick square to stitch up. I love this stitch. I'm going to have to use it in a design soon. I have an idea. So you're going to be seeing this one again soon. If, like me, you've worked over your ends, give them a nice pull and then get them woven in properly and securely. And I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and you're looking forward to adding it into your Hodgepodge blanket. It's not long now. We don't have many more squares to make. This is probably one of the easiest ones. We have some more challenging ones coming up this week, but they are absolutely stunning. And you've made so many squares so far. If you have missed any of the squares and you wanted to catch up, don't forget you can find all of the squares in the description box, or the link to find all the squares in the description box, as well as the written pattern for this square. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I will see you again very soon for another Granny Square tutorial.